Really, feminists? Come on, there's got to be a happy medium between a husband making his wife wear this and a husband making his wife wear this. I know 1619 was bad, but this is happening right now, right under your nose rings. You knew how wrong it was when tens of millions of South Africans had been treated like second-class citizens just because of their race. But here's the thing. Today, right now, hundreds of millions of women are treated worse than second-class citizens. When you mandate that one category of human beings don't even have the right to show their face, that's apartheid.
Bill Maher is now taking aim at what he sees as performative activism, calling out those he believes are more focused on virtue signaling than real change. The outspoken real-time host isn't holding back, delivering sharp commentary on what he views as exaggerated outrage. If you're into bold takes and unfiltered moments, this one's for you. Hit that subscribe button and let's jump in.
Out protesting for a couple of hours wearing this, you have to go all the way and spend an afternoon running errands wearing one of these. You can't side with the people who ruthlessly oppress women without at least getting a taste of what you're supporting.
One thing about Bill Maher, he doesn't hold back. He skips the fluff and speaks directly, especially when addressing what he sees as misguided activism. In his latest segment, Maher criticizes those who, in the name of social justice, defend causes they may not fully understand, calling it out as deeply misguided. If you're quick to support slogans from afar without considering the real-world impact, he argues, maybe it's time to reflect on the experiences of the people actually affected. Hashtags are easy. Understanding the consequences is not. His opening monologue hit hard, but what came next was even more powerful. Listen to this.
Well, now that summer is here and the Hamas-backing college protesters have dispersed back to their summer internships at Goldman Sachs, I thought it might be a good time to say this. I actually admire your youthful idealism, and our world would be poorer without it. Much like your parents who just wasted 300 grand on that ignorance factory you call a college. Not that I think it's your fault being this poorly educated and morally confused. That takes a village. Shitty schools, overindulgent parents, social media, that priest who rubbed lotion on you. But 3 cheers to you for at least having the impulse to seek a cause and something bigger than yourself. It's just that the one you picked, you missed the boat by a fucking mile.
We could spend hours unpacking the problems in our education system, a system that often seems more focused on promoting conformity than fostering independent thought. Today, students take on massive debt for degrees that don't always translate into real-world skills, and too often, they leave lacking the ability to think critically. Bill Maher points out how this disconnect can lead to misguided support for causes without understanding the full context. For example, he highlights how some overlook clear facts about extremist groups, favoring slogans over substance. Still, he gives them some credit for at least caring about something larger than themselves, even if that passion is sometimes misdirected.
The good news, you want a cause? 'Cause I totally got one for you. Apartheid. Yeah, apartheid, the thing you've been shouting about with Israel for months. Never mind that Israeli Arabs are actually full citizens. You learned that word from a 2 Chainz song and discovered that protesting South Africa's apartheid in the 80s was a righteous cause, and so it was. To this day, when celebrities are asked who is the person they most admire, one name is always the safest choice.
Nelson Mandela.
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 So naturally, when you heard that Israel was an apartheid state, it gave you such a boner, you literally pitched a tent.
Nelson Mandela fought a just and courageous battle, the liberation of South Africa from the harsh realities of apartheid. His struggle wasn't about slogans or fleeting trends. It was grounded in sacrifice, discipline, and a deep moral conviction. Mandela didn't seek validation from public applause or online approval. He was thoughtful, well-read, and deeply engaged with the world he aimed to transform. Rather than using identity as a weapon or relying on simplified narratives, he built bridges through empathy, intellect, and a long-term vision. Today's activists could take inspiration from his example of substance over spectacle.
I knew how wrong it was when tens of millions of South Africans had been treated like second-class citizens just because of their race. But here's the thing. Today, right now, hundreds of millions of women are treated worse than second-class citizens. When you mandate that one category of human beings don't even have the right to show their face, that's apartheid. And it goes on in a lot of countries.
And that's part of the issue Bill Maher highlights with some modern activism. Many praised historic figures like Nelson Mandela, quoting him and calling him an inspiration, yet rarely focus on the kinds of causes he truly stood for. Maher's point is clear. If Mandela is your role model, then stand up for the oppressed in the way he did. Today, millions of women in parts of the world still face severe restrictions on their basic rights, from voting and property ownership to personal freedom. These realities resemble a kind of modern oppression based on gender rather than race, yet they often go overlooked. Meanwhile, some student movements passionately support causes they may not fully understand. The disconnect, Maher argues, is not just ironic, it's deeply concerning.
For the last couple of years, women in Iran have been saying, take this hijab and shove it. Because in 2022, a young woman named Mahsa Amini was arrested for wearing her mandatory hijab incorrectly and then died in police custody. And now security forces have killed over 500 people protesting her death and this obvious human rights violation. How about defunding those police?
Bill Maher doesn't ease up, especially when it comes to the defund the police movement. He questions how a few high-profile cases led to calls for dismantling an entire institution, often without a clear plan for what comes next. Using his usual mix of sarcasm and sharp reasoning, Maher points out the flaw in scrapping systems wholesale while ignoring far more severe abuses abroad. In places like Iran, for example, so-called morality enforcement isn't satire, it's reality. Women can be harassed or detained simply for how they dress, facing real, state-backed repression. Yet outrage over those issues is often muted in the West. Maher calls it what he sees as selective activism, and he's not afraid to challenge the silence.
Amnesty International says that Iranian authorities are waging a war on women that subjects them to constant surveillance, beatings, sexual violence, and detention. What P. Diddy calls a hotel stay. In Iran, Me Too isn't a movement. It's what a woman says when another woman says, my life sucks.
When you compare the United States, often harshly criticized by some activists, to many countries around the world, it's clear that American women enjoy a level of freedom and opportunity that's still out of reach in many places. Here, women can vote, own property, choose any career, run for office, speak out, protest, and live independently. They're free to lead businesses, raise families, or both, without state interference or fear of punishment over how they dress. And yet, rather than defending these hard-won freedoms, some choose to criticize the very system that made them possible. What's even more troubling, as Bill Maher points out, is how easily some people seem to align with regimes that deny basic human rights. He sees it as a form of misplaced loyalty, and he's not afraid to say so.
Amin Mohammed is a human rights activist who got married off to a Muslim man with fundamentalist views about women, not exactly uncommon in the Muslim world. He forced her to wear the niqab all the time, including once beating her because she took her hijab off at home because the apartment had a window through which people might see in. And this was in Vancouver. Here's what Yasmin said about veiling. It just suppresses your humanity entirely. It's like a portable sensory deprivation chamber, and you are no longer connected to humanity. You can't see properly. You can't hear properly. You can't speak properly. People can't see you. You can only see them. Just little things, passing people on the street and just making eye contact and smiling, that's gone. You're no longer part of this world, and so you very quickly just shrivel up into nothing under there. And that's my answer when someone says Islamophobe.
Did you catch that awkward silence? It wasn't just a pause. It was a punchline that hit hard. But it also revealed a deeper issue, the conversation many avoid. Bill Maher points out a clear double standard. Criticism of certain religions, like Christianity, is often accepted or even encouraged, while even mild critique of Islam can spark immediate backlash. Public figures may feel free to challenge Western values or secularism, but questioning aspects of Islamic doctrine is frequently met with accusations of intolerance. That silence speaks volumes. It reflects a cultural hesitance, a fear of being shamed or labeled for simply raising difficult questions. What sets Maher apart is that he doesn't shy away from those moments. He speaks candidly, even when it's uncomfortable, and he does it without apology.
Feminists, come on, there's got to be a happy medium between a husband making his wife wear this and a husband making his wife wear this. I know 1619 was bad, but this is happening right now, right under your nose rings.
Now Bill Maher turns up the heat on modern feminism, and he argues it's long overdue. Take Kanye West, for example. He often faces criticism over how his wife dresses, with accusations of being controlling or sexist. Social media erupts, think pieces follow, and the outrage is swift. But where is that same energy when it comes to women in countries like Iran, who are legally required to cover their hair, dress a certain way, and limit their public voices? The contrast is striking. If choosing to wear something revealing is considered oppression, what do we call women being punished for not covering up? Maher's point is sharp. If feminism is truly about defending women's rights, it has to apply everywhere. You can't call out patriarchy in Hollywood while staying silent on actual systemic restrictions abroad. Without consistency, Maher argues, activism turns into performance, and he's not playing along.
It's not just the clothes. 15 countries in the Middle East, including Gaza, have laws that require women to obey their husbands. Laws, not just Harrison Butker's opinion.